Welcome back to another episode of TVGP's Game Club. This month we're talking about Life is Strange 2. I'm your host, Boston, playing on the PlayStation 5. I'm joined as always by Musum.
Hello.
What platform are you playing on?
Oh, right. PS4.
Okay. Moon is not joining us this month. He's taking the weekend off. It's always important to take a break, especially after Life is Strange 2. Because, oh boy,
Yeah.
little dog, yeah. All right, let me bring my show notes up here so we can talk about all the details about the game. The first episode was published September 27th, 2018, and then, obviously, other episodes came out after that. Published by Square Enix, developed by Don't Nod, came out on PC, PS4, Xbox One, OS X, and Linux. Metacritic 78, OpenCritic 79, and that's for kind of the collection as a whole, because they after all 5 episodes came out, they kind of released a box, a standalone boxed version, and that's for that. Appears for the release date, Forza Horizon 4, which is a great game. Mega Man 11, which I sort of forgot about.
Was that the one people liked or the one people hated?
I think they liked 10 a lot, and I think 11 came out, and everyone was like, it's fine. It's okay. Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which is, I like that one a lot. That was real good. Previous Game Club game, Return of the Obra Dinn, which, man, that's a great game. I wish I could go play that one fresh again. Whew. And
if you haven't played that, you guys should play that.
Yeah, man, what a fantastic game. I think that was our top Game Club game that year, right?
I think so. Like, it's hard to... I mean, that's one of those games where I feel like in a year or two, when I've forgotten most of it, and then go back and play again, like, it's just... They could just make that a whole genre to itself, and I would just keep playing those.
Yeah, man. And Darksiders 3, which is, as much as I love the first two, sort of forgot about that one too. Let's ask a question we ask every month: top of the pile, middle of the pack, or overlooked?
I think it's pretty well overlooked myself.
Oh, really? I was gonna say top of the pile because I feel like Life is Strange 1 and to a lesser degree Before the Storm did so well, and like the first one was like lightning in a bottle, and then the second one came out and everyone was like, yeah, like you're not continuing the story with the same characters, like, yeah, something fresh. But then I think it fell off pretty quickly.
Yeah, like all I remember is playing the first episode and it wouldn't give me any stats on my choices.
Oh, weird.
Which seemed like no one had played it to me. And it was like that for probably the first 2 episodes, and like all the people I knew previously who had played Life is Strange. Wait, are you my only friend who's played Life is Strange?
Probably.
Okay, I'm going to retract whatever I was about to say.
Yeah.
I'm judging my sense of reality by whether Boston has played it or not.
Right. I'm the authority.
I don't know. I feel like there were maybe there weren't a lot of articles on the first one. Gosh, maybe this is like one of those just critically acclaimed darling series that, like, it has that acclaim, but it doesn't have that, all the fan articles and editorials written about it and theorizing about it that I'm used to seeing from, like, a Mass Effect or something.
Well, and I feel like with the first one, especially if you sort of made it over the initial hump of like LOL teenagers, and you kind of made your way through the whole thing, especially to the ending, then I think like as an entire product, if you made it through all 5 episodes, I think the majority of people that played it were just like, yeah, that was a real cool, unique, different thing that I really enjoyed.
Yeah.
But I feel like you've kind of tapped out after the first episode. You're like, this is dumb. It's just a bunch of teenagers like LOLing and texting, whatever. So I feel like if you didn't make it through the whole thing, then it might have been like, yeah, Life's Strange, whatever. Who cares?
Yeah. I guess that first one did have, like, I think of it just as like this golden child, but I guess the reality is like it did have some like in terms of quality up and down moments.
100%. Well, I mean, like the initial release didn't have lip syncing or anything. Like it was,
Oof.
it was kind of a not really rough, but you could tell it was just like, yeah, here's like 10 people making this game, and they really had this kind of passion project, and they made it happen. But you know, there were clearly sacrifices to be made overall. But yeah, that first one was kind of a cool thing, and it'll be important too when we're spending time on it here, because it will definitely loop into
And
Life is Strange 2 here.
and another thing to note, playing this, gosh, how can I do this without ruining our podcast? Playing this game in, we'll say, the political climate of 2018 with
Oh yeah.
the story elements of the game, like
Oh boy. Yeah.
it was pretty rough. It's
Mhm.
I would understand anyone for realizing what the game is about and saying, I'm going to wait till I can approach this with a healthier mind than the
Right.
toxicity we've been experiencing.
When it isn't literally happening outside.
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Before we get into the game here, this is sort of the unspoken thing we have every month, but we are definitely going to be talking about spoilers for real in this game. We will try and keep spoilers of the first game to a minimum, but I'm sure there's some stuff that we will talk here. So we'll probably be talking about Life is Strange, all 4 titles here. That's Life is Strange Before the Storm, A Awesome Adventures of Captain Spirit, and Life is Strange 2. Kind of talk about all of those here. So spoiler alert in effect for literally the whole rest of this episode here. So you have been warned. Let's start off here at the beginning. I thought it was really interesting that while you can import your Captain Spirit stuff in episode 2, I was a little surprised that they didn't import really anything from the first game.
Yeah.
Because on my PS5, I downloaded anything Life is Strange from the cloud to make sure I could import any of that stuff. And I like that the only thing they really did was ask the question of like, what was the choice you made at the end of the first game?
Yeah.
I thought that was interesting, because there are probably 2 points where that choice would matter. One is in episode 1 and one is in episode 5. But I didn't have enough time to go and see like, oh, if you chose this one from the first game, what does that do? If you chose this one, what does that do? I thought that'd be pretty interesting. So episode 1, Roads. Boy.
Well, and did you want to talk about Captain Spirit at all first?
Sure, yeah. I played Captain Spirit back when it came out, so that would have been before Life is Strange 2 came out, because I was like, well, let's get tie into Life is Strange 2. I'm going to play that. It's like an hour. I remember liking it, even though it was, I guess, thematically difficult.
Yeah. It's, I don't know. It's, I found it like thematically difficult, but ultimately like it was a little boring, and I didn't understand that wasn't the main character when I first played it.
Yeah, exactly.
Which threw me off. Like, thankfully, in the grand scheme of things, the Diaz brothers are infinitely more interesting than Chris. But
yeah,
it's I don't. It was a, you know, Don't Nod is always trying something different or new or unique, and I don't know that one panned out super great, since it really only affects stuff in
episode.
Gosh, it's really just episode 2, right?
Yeah, I don't think it has any larger. And I think the thing I remember the most from that was the ending, where you see it from the Diaz brothers' perspective in episode 2, where you kind of save Chris, is his name, the Captain Spirit.
Yes, I believe so.
Where you save him from sort of falling out of the tree. But even in Captain Spirit, they don't say like, these are the main this is the guys. You're gonna play as these guys. Look, check it out in Life is Strange 2. So as like a sales thing or a demo, I don't think it was super. It's a neat thing, but I don't know if it's. I don't know if you need to go play it where it's like just take the hour and go do it and go check it out. I don't know if it's super important. Okay, let's go to episode 1, Roads. A real wild opening where the cop cars sort of pull up outside the Diaz house and then they start getting blown away by some mysterious force. Like that
Oh
was
yeah.
a pretty cool intro to this game of just like, it's still Life is Strange. Weird things are going to happen.
Yeah. It's I thought it was a really good send off. Like it's something interesting that this game does that none of the other Life is Strange do is you're aside from the Diaz brothers, you're Diaz. That is their last name, right? I'm not going
Diaz,
crazy.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Aside from them, like the main cast almost entirely changes every episode.
Yeah.
Whereas, the previous ones, you for the most part meet most of the characters in the first episode or two, and that's that.
Yeah. Yeah, the first game is really just about Arcadia Bay. It's not, this one is it almost feels like a reaction to the feedback of the first one, where it's like, all right, you thought that was too small of a story. Well, we're gonna cross the entire United States. How's that sound? It's just like, okay, well, we can do that, sure.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
did you when the neighbor's kid confrontation? I don't know that this. I mean, obviously, it's not going to change the result of your dad getting shot.
Right.
Did you opt to hit him, or did you stay passive?
I stayed passive, and I wanted to sort of gently redirect Daniel because I was hoping that by sort of focusing on him, we would diffuse the situation, and then not realizing that whole thing has to play out anyway. So I think
Yeah.
it's what. By the way, what did the bully kid fall on in the yard? I never really caught what that was.
It looked like he fell on a. So he does that anyway in the passive one, then, right? Like
He
so.
does, yeah. You sort of turn to Daniel and say like, dude, I told you, like, leave this guy alone. Like, you just sprayed him with this fake blood. Like, why'd you even leave the house? And then the bully kind of starts picking on you anyway. You get into a little bit of a scuffle, and then he falls onto like a piece of metal or a rock or something. Like,
Yeah.
whatever that was, he falls on.
I was never really clear if he survived that or not, but I assume he
Yeah,
did.
I didn't either.
Otherwise, there'd be like a murder charge. But so,
Right.
like this, when I first played through the game, I went very reserved on everything, very like ultra moralistic. And this run through I did for this podcast, I didn't make it all the way through, just to be blunt, because it was way longer than I remembered it being.
Yeah, yeah, it was way longer than I was expecting it to be, which is not really a negative, but everyone's like, oh, it's like 2 or 3 hours per episode, and it's like, yeah, that's still a lot of time.
So this run through, I thought, well, I'm going to encourage Daniel to use his powers more than I did previously.
Oh, sure.
And that doesn't really start till the next episode, but that was kind of my mentality on it. And I thought maybe I can try to choose some of the meaner responses. And it turns out, no, I can't choose some of the meaner responses. Some of these dialogue options are just like, whoever chose that's a terrible person. I can't choose that.
Right. Yeah, let me
I should have written down an example. I remember there was like one specifically in the first episode where I was like, who would choose that?
Yeah, I'm trying to remember.
Worse.
One of the. Go ahead.
I was just say like half the choices for the first episode or two are just be really mean to Daniel or try to be understanding. Like
yeah, yeah. I feel like some of the stuff in, especially in the early stuff. It gets better as the game goes on, but I felt like I was making these choices where it was like, let Daniel run wild or try and put him on the right path. And a lot of ones where my MO, and especially in the first episode, was like, I gotta keep him on the right path because I'm the big brother now, and like I need to make sure that he doesn't get into trouble, like he doesn't really turn out bad. And a lot of the ones where you're like trying to say like, hey man, we can't do that, a lot of them are Sean coming out and just being like, shut up dude, you know we can't do that. And it's like, wait, hold on. Like
Yeah.
I don't want to be that pushy. But yeah, like that whole scene where the cop shoots Esteban and they run away and the cop is dead and the Daniel clearly does something which we pretty quickly learn about. Um, I thought all of that stuff was pretty well directed and pretty well done.
Yeah.
Um, and
I like that they made like the dad this really charismatic character. Like,
yeah, yep, yeah,
I mean, that really sells the moment, I feel like.
mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's just it. I think it really hits home that like this is just a bad situation that good people were put into, and
Yeah.
the worst outcome happened. Uh, and there's just and Sean just freaks out,
Yeah.
which is understandable, and just gets the hell out of there. And then it cuts to them starting their adventures. They I thought the stuff with them having a camp out was done pretty well. They the next morning they go to the gas station, which I thought I like that you can spend some time kind of poking around the gas station. It really left them to their own devices. I didn't realize until the end of the episode that you could beg the family sitting at the picnic table for food.
Oh yeah.
Because my whole thing was like, put your head down, don't talk to anyone. Like they think you killed a cop. Don't look at anyone. Don't talk to anyone. Like you gotta lock this down. Of course, Sean and Daniel never think, hey, let's use different names, but that's okay.
Yeah. So interesting thing. I stole $10 from the swear jar from my
Mm,
dad's house, and that
I
had
didn't know
no
you could do that.
consequence other than giving me extra money.
Interesting, because I looked and um, real in the prologue, your dad Esteban asks you like, "Hey man, are you gonna use this money for like drugs and weed?" And I thought, well, he'll clearly know if I'm lying, so let me say no and just like try and of course, Sean, the best liar, goes, oh, no, I'm gonna use it for going to the library, and it's like, Sean, come on.
Yeah.
So he gives me $20. He's like, hey man, if you would have been honest, I would have given you 40, and that really screwed me here in
Yeah.
the gas station because I had like $10.37 to buy food for the two of us. It was just
Oof.
like, oh, I think I bought like a 2 liter of pop and a loaf of bread and like one game in the Power Bear claw machine, and that was all I had.
So I had like $53
Oh, jeez.
because I stole that $10 and then I
Right.
told Dad the truth because I did what you did the first time through,
Mhm.
and you know he does give you $40, and then I think I had
Man,
$3 already, so I bought like almost every food item they had,
you're
and
buying
like
meat and peanut butter and
yeah,
jelly and water.
pretty much. I went
No,
overkill on it. Like I think I even bought like a sleeping bag or something. Anyway,
nice.
the tent thing. I mean, I didn't. I doubt it's possible to have enough money for that.
Yeah, because it's like $70 or something. I
Yeah,
there was no, and I like that it gives you the option to like go ahead and steal it. And it's like this thing is bigger than I am. Where am I gonna put that thing?
yeah. I honestly like spending that much money at that gas station only to have the owner go freaking ballistic on me just
Yeah,
made me even angrier. Like,
yeah. I that was really that was interesting because I feel like when you're talking to the lady that's working behind the counter, she doesn't really care until she kind of does, saying like, "Where are your parents?" And Sean, again, being the best liar in the world, was like, my dad he'll catch up later. It's like, Sean, come on, man. You're a teenager.
Yeah,
You can lie better than this, dude. Um,
yeah,
and I was pretty surprised that when the owner guy comes back, he's just sort of like, "What are you kids doing?" And it's sort of like, "Man, we're just leaving, no big deal." And then he just like knocks you out, and Daniel runs away. And I'm just like, wait a minute,
yeah,
what's this? This really escalated. And then he just ties you up, and then just starts talking about this is the reason why we're building the wall. And it's like, woof, boy, okay,
yeah,
this, all right, we're going all the way into this guy being a scumbag.
yep.
Um,
It's man, it's a moment. It is a being locked to the freaking bar in his office. Like that whole
yep.
moment was. They just built the tension in that really well. Like
Hmm.
it's whether you think that shop owner is a realistic human being or
Right.
not. Like,
Right. He's
I,
he's a little bit of a character, but not
yeah,
enough to be like a mustache twirling villain. But it's a little bit of like, ooh. There's a
I,
there's some better villains in episode 5 that
yeah,
I think sold that role a little bit better.
yeah. Well, and I won't get into the story, but as a teenager, I very much had an adult in a mall grab my wrist and not let go
Oh, for
uh,
sure. Ditto.
for a
Yeah.
minute. Adults freaking overstep their bounds and adding like racial lines to it. I can't even
Yeah.
imagine how horrifying that has to be.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I thought the escape sequence was pretty good. I felt like I kept feeling like the clock was really ticking and that guy was gonna come back and bust down the door and see me and Daniel. But I don't even know if that can happen, but we successfully escaped. We ran into probably one of my favorite characters in this game, Brody, the
oh
guy,
yeah,
the blogger guy,
yeah.
um, which I is hilarious. That the animated cutscene with the two wolves for the rest of the episodes just shows him as a bear. It's just really great. Um,
I
and
did not pick up on that. That's awesome.
yeah, this is one of the things that I thought was really interesting was the game takes this wild swing, and it does it every once in a while where you just escaped from two adults that really took advantage of Sean and Daniel being on their own and running from the law. And it immediately throws you into a situation with another adult that you're not entirely sure that you can trust. Like Brody seems friendly enough, but so did the lady that was behind the counter. Um, and you're sort of forced to trust him in the short term and hope that he won't take advantage of you or abuse you long term. And I think that kind of dichotomy was really interesting throughout
Yeah,
this entire game, where it's like this person was just really terrible to you. Here's another adult. Are they going to do the same thing to you? Like, do you need to be on pins and needles the entire time, or can you open up to Brody and kind of hope that he'll treat you better than the rest of the people in your life?
yeah.
I I thought that was I think
I,
that's kind of cool.
that first episode was really good. Like the more we talk
Yeah.
about it, the more it's like that was really kind of the perfect send off. Like
Hmm.
because it gives you the family setup. It gives you the two kind of opposing things you're going to encounter throughout the game and those characters you were just talking about, and
Yep.
like a lot of the last half of the first episode and um
Well, and you get introduced to Sean and Daniel's relationship here at the beginning. Because I was replaying some of the first couple episodes here this morning, trying to wrap up some of the collectibles and trophies, and it's really interesting how different their relationship is at the beginning versus their relationship at the end, where in the beginning they're still very much brothers that don't like each other because they're far enough apart age wise that there's not a lot for them to share. And it's a lot of like, get out of my room. You're super dumb. You're just a kid. That sort of stuff. It's really interesting to see that relationship kind of maturing as you go, even throughout the first episode. Because it's the I like that the back half of the first episode is Brody trying to tell Sean, like, look, man, like I know what happened to your dad in Seattle. I know who you are. I'm not gonna turn you in or anything. Like I'm gonna give you some tools you need to get out there and try and find your own way. But like, you got to tell Daniel, man. Like
Yeah.
you need to do it soon, and you need to find a way to do it. But you really need to tell him, because you can't just keep telling him like, yeah, Dad's gonna catch up with us any minute now. Like, that's not gonna happen, kid. Um, and I there this is the first of two really notable callbacks to Life is Strange 1, where they kind of have a heart to heart there with a lighthouse in the background, and as they leave, the sign next to them says Arcadia Bay. So they kind of swung their way through Arcadia Bay, which, spoiler alert for the first one, I don't know if you destroyed the town in the first game, if what that sign says. That's one of the things I had wanted to go see, but I saved the town in the first one, which wraps into
So
episode 5.
so my first playthrough this, I chose the destroy the town option.
Mm.
And basically they just briefly talk about it's crazy that there used to be a town here or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
Um,
Okay.
and I think they have a like Arcadia Bay was here type sign or something. Like it's
Oh,
only
interesting.
maybe 10 seconds worth of content, but it's still
Right.
an interesting background feature, you know.
Yeah.
And
Uh,
more interesting though is
mm,
that the ramifications of that decision when you run into what's his name in episode is it 4
David
where
in
he
episode
shows up?
5.
Episode 5, that was it.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a very funny story about that when we get to episode 5.
Gotcha.
But yeah, let's push through the rest of this, because we're this is
Oh,
probably going to
yeah.
take us like 2 hours if we. But
Good point.
basically, Brody sort of dumps you at a motel, gives you a bunch of money, gives you a new backpack, gives you Mushroom the dog, which is a great name for a dog,
Yeah.
and says like, "Look, here's all the tools. Throw away your phone. Get rid of all this stuff. Like, you can make it to Puerto Lobos if you really want, but like you gotta go off the grid, man." Um, and you get to the hotel room, you get a big choice there whether or not you call Lila. I decided not to, because I figured if they think that I killed a cop, they're going to be watching my phone. So I'm just going to turn it right back off and chuck it in the ocean. Um, did you call her?
This time I did.
Okay.
Um,
How did that go? Oh boy.
it's cops don't show up. It's a very tearful conversation.
Hmm.
Um, a lot of um, him loosely explaining the situation without talking about Daniel's powers, and a lot of her asking, "Where are you?" and him not answering, and then
Right.
eventually just turning it off and throwing the phone.
Oh, okay.
Uh, but I don't know if that has any other ramifications or not.
Yeah.
Like, was when you finished the game, was Lila in the photos
No,
that they
mm-mm.
showed?
No,
Okay,
I
so
ghosted her the whole game, so she's just like, there was like in Karen's trailer, there was like a Facebook post that was basically like, "Oh, these guys are my real friends because they don't ghost me." I was like, "I'm on the run from the feds, man. Give me a
man,
break here. Come on."
yeah.
Um,
I like the first time I played through, I think I called her at every point I could.
mm,
Because to me, like that was the real love interest in the game for
sure,
him. But
right,
on the second playthrough, it's very obvious they're kind of just meant to be friends, I think.
yeah,
Um, but on that one, like when you get to the end, like all the pictures they show, like she's
mm.
kind of involved with the various family members.
Oh, nice. That's good.
Um, this one, I don't know what it's going to do because I called her there, and then in episode 2, I did not call her.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting. Okay. Wrapping up this episode, basically, Daniel finds out that his dad died from the TV, has like a power freak out, and then that's the end of the episode.
yeah,
Um, I think that's the I think the big decision there was whether or not you call Lila. Um, yeah, I think that's the big one there. Um, Okay, episode 2 rules. My Captain Spirit save file was successfully imported, which is great, even though you can't play Captain Spirit on a PS5, which is really weird, just
Hmm.
explicitly blocked. I don't understand how that works. I like that it opened with, "Hey, let's train Daniel's powers." That feels very appropriate for these two kids just being like, "Oh man, what can you lift? Can you lift this rock? How about that one? Like,
Yeah.
how about
Yeah.
that one?" That one feels really appropriate. I think this is the first episode where they get the animated two wolf brothers in a wild wild world intro that kind of persists throughout the rest of the games. Um, Daniel had a real bad cough. They are holed up in an abandoned cabin in the middle of the woods. Um, they're kind of having an okay time, although if you're reading Sean's journal, he keeps scavenging food from a nearby village and has kind of run out of food to scavenge. So they need to keep on moving. In an especially heartbreaking scene,
Oh, yeah.
the dog escapes along with Daniel, and then they just find a mountain lion has attacked the dog, which was 100% not what I was expecting.
Yeah.
The big choice there is, do you let Daniel kill the mountain lion with his powers, or do you kind of wave a stick at it and scare it off? I chose the don't let Daniel kill stuff with his powers choice, because that seemed like a real rough thing for like an 8 or 9 year old kid to do. Is like, yeah, man, kill that mountain lion. So
Yeah. I
yeah,
even on my second playthrough, I could not bring myself to choose
yeah,
the kill the mountain lion choice, even though I knew it would
yeah.
be mad at me. And I got to tell you, like the first part of that episode, like I'm constantly like, "Where's that dog? Is this
Right,
the is this the part? Okay, no,
right.
he's right there.
I know what's
We're good."
happening. Yeah.
And then like the one, gosh, well, and like so the first time I played through it, like I let the dog outside, and then Daniel blamed me for it. This
Oh,
time
interesting.
I just ignored the dog yipping, and then Daniel opened it with his powers and let the dog out.
Yeah, that's what he did for me, because like I don't think I could hear the dog. I don't know if like the stereo sound wasn't working correctly, but he's like, "Hey, didn't you hear Mushroom? She needs to go out." And it's like, "No, no." And he's like, "Fine, I'll do it." And he just opens the door and closes the door with his power. And I was like, "Oh, okay." He's of course angry that you couldn't bury the dog, but
Yeah,
God,
yeah.
what a rough scene, man. Jeez.
Seriously, I
Yeah.
really, really hoped that dog was gonna make it, but like a little bit into like episode 2, you're like, crap, they're gonna do it, aren't they?
hmm
Like,
And like they do it at the beginning of episode 2. Like you don't even have like you don't even make it like to the end. You don't make it to Mexico with a mushroom or anything. It's just like, no man, we're killing this dog off right away. It's like,
yeah,
oh boy.
yeah.
Um,
So also of note, because I was encouraging Daniel to use his powers more,
mhm.
he just cheated like a madman in that game of dice.
Yeah, he really does. And like the game at the end of the episode is like, oh, you didn't call out Daniel cheating, and I was like, oh, I didn't think I could, but I don't know if I would have either way, because it made him happy to win. He had that bad cough. I didn't want
I
to.
am
Yeah.
like seeing the results of all the encouragement I've given him in episode 3. I really regret not seeing whatever the prompts were to call him out.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So basically, you go to your grandparents' house, Claire and Steven. And you said, I. This was another one where I was like, I don't think you guys should go there. I feel like they're gonna call the cops on you like as soon as you fall asleep. Like parents aren't to be trusted, grown-ups aren't to be trusted in this game.
Yeah.
Thankfully, they kind of prove us wrong. But I was really on pins and needles the entire time that you're with their grandparents, for really no reason. But it Clay doesn't really 100% like you having that, like you being there, and Steven is sort of like, "Hey Sean, did you know that kid has powers?" And
Yeah.
I decided to lie and be like, "No, no, he's strong. He's really strong. He's a good kid. No, nothing's wrong. Don't worry about it."
So I let him know this time. I was like,
Oh, interesting.
let's find out what happens. Let's see. like for the most part, I tried to like be a really good person who stayed there, but I also decided to be more honest with both of them than normal.
Mm.
And he took it really well. He was just kind of shocked by it, and I guess he had seen it or something at some point from
Oh,
Daniel
sure.
doing that. So he was pretty accepting, and then he said, "But don't tell my wife, whatever her name is, because I
Claire.
don't know how she'll take it. She's really in like I can't remember the wording he used, but it amounted to that she was a little bit more religious than him."
Yeah,
Um,
he even said that to me when you deny it. He's like, Claire's really spiritual, and I think she was like looking for something to kind of be there, and maybe there's nothing there.
yeah.
Interesting.
So it's I still both playthroughs I had kind of the same end with the grandparents,
Yeah.
where they were upset because I took their jewelry drawer key that I didn't realize was going to be their jewelry drawer key,
Yeah, ditto.
but they delayed the cops and
Mm.
we escaped out the back.
Yeah, because like, this is so dumb. Daniel makes friends with Chris, obviously, because they're the same age and they both like superheroes and stuff. And Chris's dad is like, "Hey, let's go pick out a tree." And I, of course, say like, "Hell no. We're on the super down low. Like we cannot leave the house." And then Daniel basically asks him, and Sean's like, "Yeah, all right, let's go." It's just like, oh my god.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you go there and like you meet Cassidy for the first time, and you get the choice between that guy is picking on Cassidy, saying like, "Oh, you can't have your dog off the leash," and you can prank him or not. And I decided not to because I was thinking like he seems a little unhinged. I feel like he's one of those dudes that if you prank him, he just like goes nuts and like burns the place to the ground. I don't know if you pranked him or not.
I did prank him this time.
Okay.
And it was so they're both standing just 20 feet away from the guy.
Yep.
And like Sean kind of steps in front of Daniel with his back to the guy. And then
Mm.
Daniel takes some snow from the roof and dumps it on the guy.
Oh, great.
And but you're both staring at him the whole time and laughing. And it's like,
He like
what
never
do you
figures it out.
yeah, and the guy doesn't do anything. He's just
Oh,
not happy
jeez.
about it. And then
Right.
you leave, but like I assume that it has an impact on Daniel's behavior. Because
Yeah, I have to assume. Yeah.
I guess I assume everyone knows if they played through the game, like in the last episode, all the decisions and raising you've done towards Daniel come to fruition, and
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
it
Yeah.
affects the outcome of that. But
Yeah, the next big decision here is whether or not you have Daniel use his powers to save Steven's leg from being crushed under the cabinet. I did because I feel like either you could not use it and hurt this guy, or you can use this power for a really good reason and
yeah,
kind of let him not get injured because you have this power. And
I,
since there was so much stuff happening, Claire and Steven were both like, "I don't know what happened. Get out. Whatever.
yeah.
The cops are here."
So the first time, I did it both times I played through. I just couldn't bring myself not to do it because I felt
Hmm.
like he was going to be more injured if we tried to physically move it off of him.
Right.
Um, so this time, basically, Daniel picks it up. Uh, can't, gosh, is she a Karen? Is that her name, Karen? That can't be her name.
Claire.
Claire, thank you.
Yeah.
She probably is a Karen. But anyway, Claire's like, "What's happening? What are you doing?" And the husband, Stephen, basically reassures her. They move it, and Claire declares it a miracle.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
Stephen sticks up for you, and then Claire apologizes and all that. So
Yeah, they have like a tearful goodbye, and then they like literally sprint out the back door, and then oh god, to close out this episode, because their whole plan is Cassidy mentioned, "Oh, we're train hopping, so maybe that's a good idea," and we had to escape, so we couldn't really plan anything. Because I had told Chris that maybe he does have superpowers, he hopped in front of the cop car that was trying to chase me down on the road outside of Stephen and Claire's house, tried to use his powers on it, got hit by a cop car, and
Oof.
we had to run away and not check on him because the cops were actively following us. And I was just like, Life is Strange 2, come on.
Oh
You
man.
hit a kid with a cop car, dude. But he even
Yeah.
like had his hand out, like my power's gonna stop, and I'm like, oh god.
So I don't know what the difference is here that caused this, but in my recent playthrough, I don't remember what happened to me 2 years ago.
Hmm.
My recent playthrough, Chris jumps out, does his hand like he's going to stop the car,
Hmm.
and then Daniel throws the car into a tree.
Oh
Um,
wow,
and then Chris realizes that Daniel did it in that moment. Um,
interesting. Yeah,
and
because
then you leave.
in my playthrough, Chris turns out okay in the end. Um, but I get the impression that if you encourage Daniel to use his powers more often throughout the playthrough, that it sort of becomes second nature to him to say like, oh, I'm going to use this power to just it's my first instinct to use the power. So I wonder if that was the difference. Like, oh, you sort of picked on that guy at the tree place. You kind of did X, Y, and Z. I wonder if that's what drives it.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Well, and
Uh,
another thing, I've never, in both playthroughs, I have failed to gain Chris's trust, and so he has not told me about his dad's abuse,
yeah,
and
me
so I
neither.
was not able to confront his dad. And I think that creates, like, I think looking through the options, it sounded like there were like 3 or 4 different ways that whole end sequence could play out.
Yeah, it seems like it. Yeah, yeah,
Um, I don't, one of these days I may go back and do it. I feel like it's contingent on naming the various action figures correctly for Chris.
yeah.
Um,
Which is not intuitive, which is very
yeah.
accurate for kids.
So, and also to like paint a picture like that, the prequel DLC, whatever you want to call it,
Hmm.
came out like a month or two before the game.
I think
Episode
so. Yeah.
one came out. Episode two came out like, I don't remember. It's like 5 or 6. It may not have been 6 months, but it
They
was,
had some production issues with this game, so some of the episodes had kind of a large release window between them.
yeah. Like the whole, man, like when episode one started, like I was questioning whether the jerk kid next door was the kid I'd played through in the
Yeah,
prequel.
exactly. Yeah,
And
yeah,
and then like by the time episode two came over, I'm like, man, I don't remember anything from Captain Spirit. What are you guys doing to
yeah,
me here?
yeah.
Um, but
Uh,
it's yeah.
to wrap up this episode, they hop on a train, and then you kind of get the choices. Um, episode 3, Wastelands. This is the pot farm episode, where you and a whole bunch of hippies are working out in the forest, working on a pot farm, trying to make a whole bunch of money. Everyone for sort of their own reasons. Everyone that works there seems pretty cool, except for Big Joe, who seems to be the worst, and Meryl, the boss, who seems to be kind of a wasted voice opportunity, wasted voice actor opportunity, because he had a cool voice and was written kind of poorly. Um, but this is probably, I don't know, episode 3 and 4 were kind of low points for
Mm.
me here. I think episode 3 is kind of neat. You get to know Cassidy really well, but Daniel, understandably, is having a lot of jealousy, saying like, well, I want to hang out with Finn. He's a cool guy, not like my
Yeah,
brother. My brother's
yeah.
hanging out with all of his cool hippie friends, so whatever. Um,
The yeah, episode 3 and 4, Daniel is just super hard to put up with.
mm-hmm.
Like and like encouraging him to use his powers and just having him cheat at everything constantly,
Yep.
like is is maddening. I did enjoy the hippie setting, and I had like so the first time I played this episode, I had a real life event that made it very entertaining
Mm.
because they have a mini game where you're literally trimming weed.
Yep. Yep.
And so I played through this episode, did that night. I basically just the first time I played through it, I wasn't expecting the prompts, and I kept
Mm-hmm.
putting the controller down, and or at least the first prompt I was not expecting, and then started doing it, and then started messing it up, and
Right.
cut.
It's a pretty hard mini game.
Yeah. So then the next day, like at the time we were, we developed the one game I did,
Mm-hmm.
and we were having a dev meeting the next day, And literally one of the guys, we live in Oklahoma, and one of the guys has his license to commercially grow and was
Mm.
complaining about all the cuts he got from doing that. And I said, you know what?
Yeah, wait a minute.
I did that digitally last night.
That's right. L2R2, I got it. No big deal. That's great. Yeah, it is a pretty cool setting, I do have to say, because it is a much smaller episode than some of the others, so there's a lot of interesting things to interact with in the camp, and there's a whole bunch of people you can talk and have larger conversations with. You kind of find out that Daniel has been practicing behind your back pretty much every day, and when you confront him about it, he just like Dagobah pulls that giant tree stump out of the lake,
Oh, man.
which is just like, hey man, this is what I can do, and I'm just like, oh God, okay, like this is I've been trying to not make this happen. Okay,
Yeah. Did he do the prank on you with the tree trunk?
prank with a tree trunk. No, he was messing with me while I was throwing daggers at the tree, and he would like make them veer off into the distance.
Yeah, so he did that to me too. But when we
Mhm.
went to practice, we were like, okay, let's go over to this other place over here that's more secluded.
Yeah.
And you ask Daniel to move a tree trunk, and he raises it, and as you're passing under it, he lets
Yes.
it go for an instance to scare you. And like,
I had a heart attack as the player where I'm like, oh God. And he's like, I wasn't gonna drop it on you. He's like, man, now I don't know.
yeah,
I don't know about you, Daniel.
kid, you're going the wrong way here.
Yeah, that was one of the points in this game where I'm like, man, like, are you gonna turn out okay? Like, I know we're working at a pot farm and you're 9, but like, this is a problem, dude.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, a lot of the stuff is pretty interesting. I don't like Finn as a character as much as he has a real big crush on you. I kind of like Cassidy as a character. She's at least kind of interesting. She has a lot of interesting tales on the road. There was a really cool scene there where everyone was kind of telling their worst memories, and I like that Finn was just like, I mean, of course you got Seattle, but you don't have to talk about that if you don't want to. And I was like, oof, yeah, man, that's
yeah.
if they've had a real rough couple of months in life.
Finn
I
reminded me a lot of someone I knew in real life, which
mm,
really made him go a long way towards me because he had the same kind of vernacular use that my friend
right,
does.
right,
Except my friend, owns a house and has a job.
right.
Uh, and they both have dreads too. But
Oh, interesting.
it was a fun thing there. And like anytime you put a musician player in a game, I'm immediately gravitated towards them anyway. So Cassidy
Yeah,
was in an episode 2 with me. So
yeah. She was pretty interesting character because I didn't really connect with anybody else in the camp. And I saw that one of the decisions that you can make in the game is that you can make out with Finn. And I was sort of pushing him away because pretty quickly he's like, hey man, I saw that Meryl has a safe. How about we use
yeah,
Daniel to steal that money? And I was like, no. And even
yeah,
Cassidy was like, dude, no. Like, what are you,
yeah.
he's a kid, dude. And at that point, I was just like, I don't want to hear anything you have to say. That's the dumbest thing I have heard. And then, of course, when I got an opportunity to sort of sleep with Cassidy, and I was like, they seem like they're a good couple. I'll sort of pursue this. And it's this, I don't know if you did that in your game.
I went after, so the first time I went after Cassidy. The
Mm,
second time I thought maybe I'll go after Finn. And then I just
sure.
remembered how much he ticked me off at the end of the episode.
Yeah.
I couldn't do it. Like when
Yeah.
you want to use a 9-year-old for freaking like assault and battery, like
Right. Right. So of course, like as you and Cassidy are hooking up, you come back to the camp and like immediately like the red flags are popping up for me, where I'm like, where's Daniel? He's not near the fire. Where's Finn? Where's that dummy? What are they doing? I'm like, oh my God, please someone notice so we can go stop this from happening. I go like pop the tires on Big Joe's truck. I steal the other truck. You go to Meryl's place and you have an argument for my playthrough, because I didn't encourage Finn or Daniel, we have an argument on the room outside where Meryl is sleeping, where the safe is, saying like, guys, we have to go. Like, I appreciate you want to do this. And Daniel gets upset that you're treating him like a kid, and he blows away the door, which of course wakes up Meryl, and then he is like threatening us with a shotgun.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, and I don't know if it's this is basically right before where my current replay through ended.
okay.
Um, which I'm probably going to go the rest of the way through just because I love the game.
Yeah.
And I'm also curious to see what changes in my possible escape to Mexico, ending.
Right.
Um, I don't think it's possible not to lose your eye in this, though, is it?
No, I get the impression that that is always going to happen, but I think everything, whether Finn lives or dies, whether Cassidy gets hurt or not, and whether Meryl lives or dies, I think those are like the big sort of variables. And I tried in this playthrough, I really tried to de-escalate it, saying like, Daniel, you can't use your power. Finn, shut up and sit down. Like, we need to. So Finn lived. Cass got hurt. Sean lost his eye, and Meryl got hurt pretty badly, but Finn didn't die, which is kind of what I was angling for. And yeah, like that last shot of episode 3, where it's sort of panning up Sean's body, and then you see like a piece of shrapnel or whatever in his eye on all that blood, and then just cuts to black. I was just like, what? what are you what are you doing here, man? Like, what are you
Yeah.
doing? Life is Strange.
It's that was a hard 4 or 5 months, whatever it was, to the next
Yeah,
episode for me. Like that was holy crap, guys. That was
yeah.
a crazy ending. Yeah, I don't think anyone died on mine. Matter of fact, I know they didn't because I think you run into Finn in the hospital a little bit, don't you?
Yes, yeah. You run if he lives and you didn't like really insult him, he can talk to you in the hospital.
Yeah, I'm fairly certain that happened for
Okay.
me. Um, and I haven't insulted him on this playthrough. I've been mostly a fairly polite person. Sometimes these games, I just cannot make myself choose like the jerk comments.
Yeah.
Like I I don't know. I have friends who just love being the most evil, but like in this game especially, like it's not like Knights of the Old Republic 2 where you start literally growing horns by
Right.
making the evil
Right.
choices. And this one is close enough to real life situations, just with a 9-year-old with telekinesis, that
Right.
it's really hard for me to deviate from my own moral compass. So
Yeah.
um,
But that's episode 3. So episode 4, Faith. This is a really rough episode. You start off after a couple of weeks, or coming out. Sorry, a couple of weeks after you come out of a coma. You fell into a coma after the quote unquote explosion that happened on the pot farm. You find out you definitely did lose your eye. You're sort of under police watch, and you're getting your eye taken care of here. And then uh, you talk to Agent Flores, who's just a real piece of work, and just really does not trust this kid saying, "Yo, for real, it wasn't my fault." And then you get to meet Joey, the I think he's a nurse, that is just like the coolest dude ever.
yeah,
Bring Sean a cookie, which I appreciate. But the whole point of this is like Jacob, that was at the pot farm, leaves you a message in your notebook that says, "Hey, I have your Super Wolf comic, wink," and we took it to basically the place where I grew up. So you can tell that he has Daniel, and he went to, oh man, I don't remember what the place is called here. The cult place that he's
yeah,
from.
yeah.
So you need to escape the hospital, which I did pretty successfully by climbing out the window and down the scaffolding.
Yeah.
I did see Finn in the hospital, and I decided not to talk to him because, yo, that explosion took my eye, and now I don't know where my brother is, so that guy can sort of go kick
Yeah.
rocks for as far as I'm concerned. I know you can kind of make up with him, and there'll be some positive side effects in the end where I think he'll write you letters and stuff when you're in prison. But that guy can go to hell. Whatever. Screw you, Finn.
Yeah.
I don't know where
No,
Daniel is. Let's go.
I think I talked to him, and I feel like he. No, I'm gonna get it wrong. I'm sorry. I am less prepared than I meant to be.
No, you're okay.
This.
So you hotwire a car, you escape, and you start making your way to the church. I can't remember what the name is. Anyway, you pull over somewhere to take a nap, and these two desert hillbillies start beating up on you. I decided to just keep saying what they're saying in Spanish because they wanted me to, instead of picking a fight with them, because I feel like, hey, this dude just lost his eye. Let's maybe not get the crap kicked out of us, and let's just try and get Daniel instead of picking a fight with everyone. Haven Point. There it is. Haven Point is what you're going to.
I've been looking for it this whole time, too.
Yeah. So I decided not to pick a fight with him. Your car eventually runs out of gas. You're like a couple of miles away from Haven Point, so you kind of start hoofing it there. You run into Anton, who was driving a lumber truck and pulls over, and I'm just like, here we go. Here's another adult that could potentially just turn me into the feds. But I hopped in because, so I felt really badly because when you're walking along the side of the freeway, I'm, of course, holding R2 to run. And after like 10 or 15 seconds of that, Sean tells me, the player, to stop because I can't run in the desert all day. And he just goes like, dude, stop. I can't run in the heat all day. And I was like, oh, man, I'm so sorry. Let's get in that truck. I bet there's air conditioning in there.
Yeah.
I felt pretty badly about that. He gives you a sandwich. The sandwich seemed really good.
Yeah, I rode with the trucker, too. I'd forgotten about that. But like my basis for doing that was I've briefly hitchhiked with a trucker in real life, and everything everyone's told me about truckers is they're generally pretty nice and they're just bored and lonely and want company. So,
and for me, it was like a survival thing. Like, you could probably make it to town walking, but like if it's enough ways away and this dude is going there anyway, like, why not? You get air conditioning in there probably. Like, you're half dead in the desert. Let's hop in the car, or let's hop in this truck. So you make it to Haven Point. You find out that LOL, it's a cult, and they have a new angel, Daniel, with a power. And I'm just like, oh no. And he's go ahead.
These storylines always make me ridiculously angry. Like,
like I was uncomfortable and angry the entire time because Daniel is using his power as part of the church as some sort of like repentance that he feels he needs to do because he thought that he killed Sean and everybody else as part of the the quote unquote explosion that happened at the pot farm. So he Daniel doesn't really want to go with Sean, even though he's happy to see him, because he has to sort of pay for the things that he's done. And they kick Sean out pretty quickly, and Sean runs into Karen, of all people, his mom that left, who Sean is still real pissed off about. Even though Karen is like, yo, we need to work together to get him out of this cult. Like, you can be mad at me, but like, let's get some perspective here, dude. So in this episode and the next episode, I largely tried to reconcile with her, like sort of being honest, saying like, no, you left, like you walked out on us, and that hurts, but I'm open to hearing why, and we need to save Daniel.
And that's largely what I did in my playthrough, and that's I'm probably not going to antagonize her this time either.
Hmm.
But I did get I think there's a decision option that says, "Did you reconcile with Karen or not?" at the end of one of these, and I got that
Yeah,
one.
yeah, it's either this one or the next one, but I appreciated how she was written, and she in the game she comes out really early saying like, "Look, I tried to be what society wanted me to be, a wife and a mother and this good upstanding citizen, and that's just not me, man. Like that, I couldn't do it." And she said like, "I was honest with Esteban, and I really tried to do it, and I told him, and we tried to go to counseling, and it just didn't work out, and I had to go, and I thought it would be easier if I just left, and I'm sorry, it clearly wasn't."
Yeah,
And me as the player was sort of like, all right, yeah, like, all right, you were affording this teenager a lot more honesty than I think I was expecting you to afford him. I give you a lot of credit for that, Karen. Like
yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I'm glad they gave her character that much depth, and they didn't
Yes.
just make her into this evil parent. Like, obviously, what she did was insane. Like,
Mhm.
who ghosts not only their husband and children, but also their parents, and
Right.
goes to live in the middle of nowhere in a desert.
Right.
But it's she was so. I think also what helps with it too is she is so willing to try to make amends.
Yeah.
Uh,
And like take a pretty serious verbal beating from Sean and just
yeah,
be like, I understand. You have every right to be angry. Here's my side of the story, man. Like you can you can like it or not, but this is how my
yeah,
life is going. Um, so she helps you break Daniel out. I I ran into a bug during this breakout sequence. So Karen, as you're going through there, says like, "Hey, on one side there's a an adult and a kid. On the other side there's just a lady." So I go on the right hand side and I go all the way around, and nobody sees me get into Lisbeth's house. We go through. We find that Jacob's sister has pneumonia, so we now know how she needs to get treated once we break her out too. And Karen is like, "Hey, someone's coming! Like, you gotta hide." And I hide in the closet, and then Jacob is outside saying like, "Man, we gotta hide," and he's just spinning in circles in the middle of the
oh
room, and I'm just like,
man,
"Jacob, no! Get in the closet with me! Like, you gotta hide." So I come out to see if I can like reset him in the game, and then that jerky dude with the gun comes in and like, instead of beating up Jacob, he beats me up, and I was like, "That's fine." Jacob seems so nice, and he had just
yeah,
told me about like the conversion therapy he went through. I don't want him to get beaten up like that. That seems pretty terrible.
yeah,
So you break out, and then Lisbeth sort of confronts you with Daniel. I throughout this whole conversation, all I was trying to do was use the evidence I gathered in her house to show Daniel that she's not what she seems. Like, she's taking pills from her doctor who she saw, even though she won't let Jacob's sister go see the doctor. Like,
yeah,
she got kicked out of her old church due to some sort of weird circumstances. Do you think she should lead this church? And so on and so forth. So at the end, don't I don't kill her, and I don't kill the guy that's with her. I just kind of leave her to her fate, which is essentially her church burning down around her. She
yeah,
and the other guy escape, but
yeah. That is exactly what happened on my first playthrough.
yeah,
So
I didn't even threaten her with a gun or anything because the game is very much like, you can tell her to get back with this gun. I was like, no, put the gun down. Come on, like this is she's not gonna do anything to you, and like Daniel had already sort of apologized and come to your side. I'm like, just leave her. Like she's got nothing here at this point. Like we'll keep on moving.
yeah,
And then they leave with Karen. Karen's like, I know where to go, and then that's the end of episode 4. So episode 5, last episode here, wolves. opens with a pretty cool scene with Daniel and Sean camping on the in this. So I think one of the things that is really interesting about this game is I still think in this game a lot of the character models are better than the first one, but not super great. If you look at the next Life is Strange game, Colors.
That
I,
sounds
I
right.
I will never. I keep wanting to say True Colors, but that's a song from the '80s. But like those character models look really, really good, and I feel like the development time they put in this game was everything else. Like the lighting engine is crazy, and a lot of the beautiful forest and canyon vistas are incredible. And especially in this episode, is like, yeah, man, like look at this, the American Southwest, and like look at how beautiful this stuff is. And
Yeah.
I think especially in this scene, it looks incredible. They sort of had a cool camping thing where they looked at the stars, and then they make their way to Away, which is the commune where Karen is living with a bunch of other societal outcasts. Is probably the way that they would brand themselves.
Yeah.
Um, uh, they it it's interesting here because they've clearly been there for a while, and they know a lot of the people in the town. And Daniel's using his powers, and nobody really seems to care, which is kind of neat. So both all of them seem really happy, and then Karen and someone we'll talk about here in a second go into town to get provisions and stuff. And Karen comes back and is like, "So, we're having a really great time. The feds are here, so you guys gotta go." Um,
Oh
and
yeah.
and she says, "Why don't you get the police scanner from David?" And you talk to him, and like I didn't notice it, but as soon as he comes out of the camper or the trailer to kind of talk to you, I'm like, man, I feel like they reused the character model of Chloe's stepdad from the first game because God, this guy looks so much like it. And I didn't remember his name, and he's like, "Yeah, you know." And Sean at some point is like, "Oh, you had kids?" He goes, "No, I was a stepdad," or like she said, "Step douche," and I was just like, "What? Wait a minute!"
Yeah.
And then he starts talking about like that's the reason why the Prescott photo is in his trailer, because he's like, yeah, this kid like shot my stepdaughter at school, and that's that's why I lost her. Like, you know, and ever since then, I kind of came out here and realized I was living my life in a way that maybe was causing some people some harm, and when he's trying to tell you to turn yourself in, this was really interesting where he's like, "Look, I'm not trying to boss you around, like I'm not trying to push you, but I think this is really important." I thought that was really interesting that he was so bothered and hurt by that whole experience. He's like, "Look, I'm not trying to like be who I was, but this is you should think about turning yourself in." Um I
Yeah.
thought
So
that was a real cool moment.
so in mine, because you know, I sacrificed Arcadia Bay. Like he actually has a picture of Chloe and Max as like college kids.
Oh
Um,
wow, wild.
so it's not a very like it's not a detailed picture. Like they're very
Yeah, it's like
much
their usual pictures where it's just like
yeah,
blobs of color. Yeah,
yeah. But it was still kind of cool. But
that is.
he did lose his wife in that. Um,
Oh, that's interesting because in my playthrough, the picture he has is of him and his wife Joyce and Chloe, like the picture you would have found in their house in the first game.
oh
And then
yeah,
there's a bunch of collectibles that he has clearly kept that Chloe had in her room. Like there's a parental advisory sign in his bathroom. And there's a couple of things like about the I think Daniel Prescott is his name. There's like a couple of things about him and a couple of things about him like clearly investigating the case that never got resolved of why Chloe died. Man, that's really interesting.
Yeah, it changes a little bit of the conversation elements. I think his attitude overall is the same, and I'm
Sure.
fairly certain he tried to talk us into turning ourselves in as well. But he's very much a more matured attitude. It makes me want to go load up that game and look around his trailer again because I did not pick up on all the bits and pieces. But
yeah, when he let me in, I was just like, I'm gonna look at everything in here.
Yeah.
What happened?
Well, and I'm sure I did at the time. It just probably didn't
Yeah.
click. But he basically he had made it sound like Chloe checks in with him like every half year or something like that.
Oh, interesting.
So I thought that was cool, even though, Arcadia Bay's a lot more people died.
Yeah. So you can kind of go say, the thing I didn't realize is, I wrote a note to Karen, because you sort of, as soon as you go in her trailer, that's like the very first option in front of you. And I wrote a really nice note because I was like, it seems like she's really trying, and it seems like they kind of made up, and I wrote a nice note to her saying like, hey, I really appreciate it. And you can say goodbye to a bunch of other people, which I didn't realize until I finished the game. And they're like, hey, man, you didn't say goodbye to like Arthur and Stanley and Joanne and all these other people. And I was like, oh, no. Whoops. I'm so sorry, everyone. But Karen is basically like, all right, I'm going to buy you some time by turning myself in for the church fire. And it's like, wait, what? Wait a minute. I appreciate it, but for real?
Gosh, I wonder if that happens every time because I don't remember that one. But I do remember the saying goodbye sequence was a very long, like, who the heck's left? Oh,
right.
This person and this person. And like, it's a really cool community to explore and go around and do the weird sculpture thing.
Yeah, and do the like scavenger hunt, which was kind of fun.
Yeah. Like, it was a really cool, thought out area that makes me like, does a place like that exist? How would they feel about tourists? They probably wouldn't like me there, but
as someone who lives in that area, 100% they exist out here for real. So you kind of leave and you make your way to the border wall, and then in this incredible sequence, excuse me, Daniel breaks open the wall, just like peels it apart, and then Daniel totally gets shot by, you're like, all right, let's get into the car and let's drive in, and then Daniel gets shot by essentially the better / worse version of the gas station guy from the first episode, which are these kind of vigilantes, I think is what the game calls them. And they're like, yeah, they're trying to get into America. Let's shoot them. And Sean's just like, I'm trying to leave, please. Mexico's right there. I'm going to Mexico. And they're like, yeah, right. You blew up the wall because there's like, what, 12 people behind you? And he's like, please, God, Puerto Lobos, please. I want to leave. And then, of course, oh my God, Sean is so stupid. He's trying to like, the real border police come. And then, of course, Sean is like, Daniel. And the cop goes like, wait, Daniel, are you Sean? You're under arrest. And I was just like, my God, dude, you've been on the road for months. Just pick a different name, please. Like, this is like escaping 101. Wear a hat, pick a different name. So you get brought into a holding cell at the border. You meet the couple who I don't remember their names, Diego and someone else.
Oh, right.
You meet them. They're trying to escape to America. I leave them. I let them out at the end because essentially you're really poops. You're like way in there. Daniel is in the infirmary, and at that point I'm sort of like, okay, this is the end of the line, man. Like, whatever, you caught me. I'm not gonna fight. I'm not gonna struggle. Like, it's fine. Whatever happened. Daniel's fine. It's okay. It'll be fine. And then, of course, Daniel like busts you out of prison. It's like, okay, let's start running again. I free the couple. I don't free the vigilantes, but I don't hurt them. I just sort of figure like you're gonna be locked in here for a while because you shot a kid, man, and
Yeah.
like border police are not happy with you. But I certainly don't want Daniel to take revenge. Um, and You bust out of prison, you hop back in your car, and you drive to the border, and Agent Flores is there, shockingly. Um, and you get the final big choice there, which is turn yourself in or use Daniel to sort of break through and escape to Mexico. And at that point, I was like, all right, I'm done. Like we made it all the way to Mexico. I am not gonna let Daniel like corrupt himself at this point and blow away a whole bunch of cop cars. I think this is the point where I say like, hey, we have to be better than the people that have misunderstood what we did. And this is the time for us to like put our hands up and say, yeah, we're pretty done. Um, and I reading the like the post game stuff, it looks like Daniel can disagree with you and kind of escape anyway. But in my
Yeah.
playthrough, he's like, yeah, we Wolf Brothers, like we're better than kind of busting through these things and escaping.
So
Um,
I did two endings when I originally did it.
okay.
I don't remember how I did both of them, but I know I did them. And the first one I got, it was happening, and I'm like, you know what? Screw it. Let's just go for it. And I said,
Hmm.
Daniel, bust down that wall. And then
Hmm.
Daniel freaks out and jumps out of the car.
Oh
And
wow.
then I crash into either cop cars or the walls and go to prison for 15 years.
Oh, okay.
Um, and then I think I did another one. Oh no, I'm gonna make myself a liar here. I feel like the other one I got was Sean made it through. Daniel did not.
Oh
So
wow. I didn't
Daniel
even
was
know that was
raised
an
with his
option.
parents, and then Sean falls in love with a person you've never met in Mexico.
Oh, wild! Because the ending that I got was Daniel goes to live with Claire and Steven,
Yeah,
um, and Sean goes to prison for 15 years. And when you get out of prison, Daniel and Karen are waiting there, and then Daniel and Sean go on a hiking trip along the route they took in Seattle, like the little rock overhang where you camped out, like the gas station, that road. They kind of hike along there. There's like a wordless ending, and then Daniel kind of does that woo, woo, woo thing
Hmm.
to Sean when he leaves, and like uses his power to open and close the car door, and then the game is kind of over. Um,
man,
and you get
I
a
don't.
bunch of pictures of like Cassidy and Daniel growing up throughout the years and like going to college and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah. I'm pretty sure Lila met me when we got out of prison when I
Oh,
did
interesting.
the ending you got. I don't remember at all them going on that hiking trip. I'm sure they. Wait, no. Yeah, I do. I do. I forgot about that. That was
Hmm.
some annual thing they did or something, wasn't it?
Oh,
After they got
okay.
out.
I think so. Yeah.
Gosh. Yeah, I that's the other hard part about replaying this game is like I want to see the other stuff. It's
Yeah.
so heart-wrenching to get there, and no matter what ending you get, it's going to be heart-wrenching. Like,
Yeah.
um,
But like, I don't want Daniel to be a bad guy at the end. Like,
yeah,
he's like, I think the game did such a great job at really how do I put this? Really not hammering home to you, but really letting you know that this kid really is 9 years old and he's on the run from the feds with this incredible superpower that it's your responsibility to kind of keep him on the right path. Um, and I would feel really badly if Daniel was like a super villain at the end of this, where he's just like, all right, whatever, like blowing away cop cars
yeah.
and like tossing people around like rag dolls.
That's now that you've said that, that's probably the thing that makes me feel that I can't make the wrong like the bad Daniel corrupting decisions in
Right.
this because it affects another character, not
Yeah, it's
just
not about Sean.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that severely changes like what I'm willing to do in a game, which is it. Gosh, some of those decisions, just like, what are you, a monster? Just train this kid to be,
right, a Jedi, like a dark side Jedi, like whatever.
yeah,
Like, yeah, I
yeah,
think, I think for me, I'm very happy we played this, and it's a bummer I hadn't played this earlier. I think more so than the first game. I think the first game is largely an even quality experience. I think there isn't really any episode that's like, oh god, this one's real bad. For me, Life is Strange 2 is fairly uneven. The highs are really high, and I think the lows are really low. Especially like episode 4 is real rough. Mostly because of the sort of content and the subject matter. But I think even though in the end nobody really wins, I think it's still a really great story. And I think it's a really great experience that I think thankfully largely tried not to be too preachy about current topics. And it kind of just said like this is how things are. I think if there's anything that's really weak about this game, the writing for some stuff doesn't really feel as strong as it did in the first one. I know, like we talked about at the beginning, like LOL teenagers for the first game, but there's some stuff in this game where it seems like it's weirdly worded or like weirdly voice acted. I kind of don't like Sean's voice actor. I don't think he's super strong unless he's speaking Spanish, and then he's doing a really great job, which I thought was actually really good. Daniel's voice actor is incredible. Karen's voice actor is incredible. Like there's a lot of really great performances in this game, and I think Life is Strange 2 overall is really great with some real lows, but I think if you liked 1, then yeah, you need to play 2 for sure. Like that would be my recommendation. Obviously, if you're listening to it at this point, either you don't care or you've played it already, but if anyone's like, oh, if should I play Life is Strange? It's like, yeah, just go ahead, play all of them, or just at the very least play 1 and 2 because they're both really really great.
yeah. So I love all the Life is Strange games, kind of unabashedly. Like to me, like I think of my favorite game franchises, and I think like, well, Mass Effect, Elder Scrolls, and Life is Strange, like, and Persona, and I'll stop
Right.
before I list like 12 things.
But it's like one of the big like
Yeah.
this kind of small team making these small games is way
Yeah.
up there.
And like I don't think the lows of this one hit me as much as it hit you, but I totally get it. Like there's like the cop who shoots your dad at the beginning is a terrible voice actor. Like
Yeah.
it's a really amazing scene where like the cop's animation and voice acting are just like the cop's like put the gun, like he's like
Yeah.
stuttering and like, and I don't know, maybe that's a realistic way to portray it. Maybe it would have been a lot more harrowing if he had been like confident.
Right,
doing
like
it.
yeah, he was nervous about it for some reason.
Yeah, like I mean, I understand they wanted to convey the nervousness. It just came off. It was a corny moment in a super dramatic and heart wrenching sequence.
Right.
That somehow didn't ruin that sequence, you know.
Right.
And they have a few of those, and some of the bad guy characters I think are a little over the top, but that's Life is Strange, I think, to a degree.
Yeah.
Like
That's
you
fair.
have the stupid photography teacher in the first one who's
Right.
like, I'm going to talk about how I'm going to paralyze you and then kill you with my camera openly
Right.
while
It's
I'm
like,
lecturing.
oh
Like,
no.
yeah, it's
Yeah.
but it's still like, you know, the dramatic tension's still there, and like
Yep.
a large chunk of that I think is due to the music, which I went ahead and looked up a little bit about the guy, which there wasn't a ton to see, but the soundtrack artist's name is Jonathan Morali.
Okay.
who is also in the band Sid Matters. Um,
Oh, I feel like did he do the first game's
yes,
soundtrack?
he did
Okay.
Life is Strange 1 and 2. He did not do
Okay.
Before the Storm.
Oh, interesting.
And he did the soundtrack, and then his band Sid Matters also has tracks on at least the first game.
Yeah, because as soon as you said Sid Matters, I was like, I feel like they were in the first game as kind of one of their licensed things.
Yeah. And it makes sense that they're using music he writes in the band and music in the game and that they blend so well together.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like kind of I was listening to a little bit of Sid Matters this afternoon just before this just to see what it was like. And I think I think that's just this dude's style. Like I'm sure he can do other
Yeah.
styles, but most of what he published seems to be in this. And those are the only 2 games he's done. He's done a bunch of French movie soundtracks.
Oh, interesting.
I didn't write any of them down because they were in French.
Right.
But like the music goes a huge way for me. Like I loved
Yeah.
the songs Cassidy did. I didn't realize they were tracking whether you listened to the whole song or not. Like
Yeah, I went back to go get a collectible, and she mentioned like, "Oh, you listened to my whole song," and I was like, "Oh, you're keeping track of that? Okay, interesting."
yeah, yeah. Um, I did not. This is such a okay. I'm gonna say it anyway. It bothered me that Cassidy's hand movements were nowhere near what she was playing on guitar.
Oh,
Uh,
sure, yeah, yeah,
I realize we all can't be Bioshock Infinite and Last of Us, but
right,
just put her hand in the vicinity, please.
right,
Like you got your guy on staff evidently for the game. Just
yeah,
ask him or have him
yeah.
play it. Stick him in the groups.
Have Square Enix give you more budget for that.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
Super stupid fighter thing. The other thing I noticed about the game in terms of writing is one of the writers is a guy named Christian Devine,
Hmm.
um, whose name kind of stuck out because I recognized it from the Masters of Doom book.
Oh, interesting.
Because he worked with John Romero on Daikatana, and then I guess later or around the same time he worked with Warren Spector on Deus Ex
Wow. Okay.
on writing
Crazy.
for those. I thought he would have been with id, but I guess I was remembering that wrong. Like
Hmm.
it had a lot of people in it that I did not realize worked there. Like
Yeah.
America McGee, for instance.
Right.
But I thought that was I don't know. That was just a neat kind of connecting thing. But like
Yeah. That's what.
overall, I really like the game. Despite Daniel being super annoying in episode 3, there's something about episode 3 that I really love, and
Hmm.
I think a lot of it has to do with the environment. Just I've been to California twice in my life, so seeing
Hmm.
like these giant, I think the red oaks is that type
Yeah,
of
the
tree.
redwoods. Yeah, they're like
Yeah,
camping in these redwoods and like starting this little eventually what Away it sort of made permanent, they kind of have this temporary campment
yeah.
there.
Like honestly, they could have taken that group of hippies and made like 3 to 5 episodes with just
Yeah.
showing David
Yeah, the
traveling with
adventures
them.
of this pot farm crew.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
I would enjoy them just cruising through the U.S. I mean,
Yep.
I do agree with you on I forgot his name being slimy. Uh,
Finn?
Finn, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, but like I thought the rest of them all had well, okay, not the like Jacob and
Penny and
yeah.
the Finnish couple.
The Finnish couple I feel like never really I feel like I didn't get as much story out of them as I got
Yeah. It was
out of
still
the
like a
rest.
missed opportunity.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I enjoyed that setting. The pot farm I thought was a real interesting approach to it, even
Mhm.
if like the antagonists in that were kind of one note for the most part,
Yeah.
which was, I mean, really, the antagonist in the gas station was one note too, and
Right.
the 2 border patrol people they gave a little bit more depth to, but they were still very despicable people.
Well, like the guy, the Border Patrol guy that is interrogating you, where it's like, man, like you had this string of horrible stuff happen to you. Like, what happened? Like,
Yeah,
I'm like, no one's really mad. Like, Agent Flores is coming here, but like, what are you doing? Like, what? I was curious. What's going on, man? That I thought that guy was pretty interesting.
yeah. Maybe this playthrough I'll just confess like at every opportunity it gives me once I get there.
Yeah, just be like, he has superpowers. I need your help. It was an accident.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's all you really need is a sympathetic ear because he was not.
Yeah.
I think any person can play through that first episode and realize there's no way the police in uh, wherever they're at in Washington are going to give you a sympathetic ear.
Yeah, exactly. Like, no one in the neighborhood really seemed like they were going to in the first place. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
All right. So I will stop talking now since we have a record length game cast.
Life is Strange 2, real good. Also, pretty lengthy, but well worth taking the journey. I'm Life is Strange Colors comes out in like early or mid September, so I'm pretty excited I will rectify this issue and I will pick that up as soon as it comes out and play through that because that's not episodic. That's all coming out all at once.
Very excited about that. Yeah.
Yeah, very excited to kind of check it out and see what Donut is going to do next. All right. Now that we're done with Life is Strange 2, let's talk about our next game. That's going to be Signs of the Sojourner. Sojourner. That's out on PC, PS4, Xbox One, and I think Series X and S, and Switch. So we don't. None of us really know much about this one, but everyone seems to have a lot of really interesting things to say about it, and we all have a lot of life stuff going on this month. So this one seems pretty short and replayable. So that all of that sort of is the right ticket here for April and May. So we're gonna play Signs of the Sojourner for next month, and we'll see you next month as well. Bye.
Bye.